Hey everyone. Hey, thanks for joining us today. I just want to, say thanks so much for joining us today. And we're excited to get this show started. And I'm excited to introduce a lot of our artists who are going to be speaking today. So before we jump into everything, I just want to share a video of the exhibition that we're doing, REMIX. Cool. So today we will be discussing mashup, new technologies, art, and NFTs, featuring Playform artists Chris Truman, Nathaniel Stern, Witold Rydell, Katya Grakovsky, Albert Abdul-Bar Wang, Roxy Savage, Michael Pierre Price, and Jen Palmer. A bit behind the concept of this exhibition is about appropriating, amalgamating, and collaging, and how all of these themes have been prevalent through artistic methods in history. Marcel Duchamp's Fountain and Warhol's Botticelli are some examples of re-contextualizing throughout the art historical canon. And so inspired by all these concepts, Playform Studio is presenting the studio group exhibition, REMIX. So the launch of REMIX is in affiliation with Playform's Stylize feature, a new feature which offers Playform users the ability to apply the style of their favorite artist onto any photo, image, or sketch. The final works featured in REMIX are predefined styles in the Stylize feature today. So you can try out all these filters at playform.io/remix. And here's an example, a few more examples of kind of how these filters will be demonstrated. So like I said, check out playform.io/remix for the full exhibition and, seeing how the works results. You can also go click on them to see the NFTs on Rarible, and you can also play with the filters when you click on the try the filter. So here's kind of what the final NFTs look like. They're open for bids if you're interested. And before we jump into everything, I just want to say welcome again. And here's Chris Truman speaking about his work. Hey, Chris.
Hi.
How are you? Welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about this work and the process?
You're muted, buddy.
Hey, Chris.
There we go. Okay, I think we're unmuted now. Thank you for joining us, everyone. When I started working with Playform, what I first started out doing was mining my own material, looking at some of the imagery that I have from my paintings, from my exhibitions, and thinking about how we've accumulated mass data from all of our photos and all of our all of our endeavors, it keeps asking me if I want to unmute myself. Is it auto muting me? Can you hear me?
Oh, no, you're good.
Okay. Okay. Great. So I started out by putting in, sets of 50 to 100 images of my own materials, my own paintings, into the freeform training method, and then training the AI on my imagery. And what would happen is that after hours and hours, I would have several thousand images to choose from. And from there, I would kind of take more of a curatorial role, where I select out particular images that become keyframes that I can use in a video, that I end up using the AI to blend together and to create these kind of moving videos of the paintings and moving through space. One thing that I think is really interesting about this is that it almost seems like the AI is trying to figure out, sort of select a kind of identity. They can go forward and they go backwards, and they're trying to figure out where exactly they want to sit in space, and how they want to present themselves. And I think that this sort of state of flux and constant change is a really interesting state for these times. The way I was thinking about REMIX is this idea that that in this sense I'm collaborating with the AI software, and so it's not necessarily something that I'm completely in control of. I'm setting up the parameters, I'm feeding it with the data set, and then I'm watching the results, and then from there I'm further curating what exactly I see. So it ends up working back and forth between some degree of control and some degree of input from myself. And obviously the images start off being mine. And then as I work with the process, it ends up becoming a collaboration between me and the AI software.
Totally, super cool. And can you tell us a little bit about the actual process itself in terms of curating and selecting your work? Because I know that you're incorporating some of your previous works into this project. So how did you know to decide what works and how?
Through a lot of it was trial and error. It was figuring out, if there's too broad of a set of data, then, then it becomes hard to distill into something consistent. And if it's too narrow, then you're not going to get the variation that you want. So there's a little bit of learning on my part as well, what works. And so this is not the first data set of images that I put in. Having watched it and having seen the results after, let's say 6 hours of training, then I was able to say, okay, I need to, on the next data set, I actually want more of the images within space, sort of as sort of a hung environment. And that will give it this sense of forward and backward space that I'm looking for. So part of it is being able to analyze the results and go back to the drawing board and say, okay, I'm going to come back at this with a new set of images that I think will result in better results.
Right. And I also love how you titled it Machine Collaborations, because not only are you kind of playing on the process of using AI, but in terms of this exhibition, REMIX, where it's used as a stylized filter, I feel like it makes a lot of sense for people to collaborate through the machine with this work as well. So do you agree with that, or?
Yeah, definitely. And beyond this particular work, I've got a show coming up at the end of the month that is also a set of collaborative works. And I think one of the things that the new technologies and NFTs have sort of brought out is this idea of collaboration. And I'm really excited about that within my own practice, both digitally and in analog. Because I think that one of the things that you're looking for when you're looking for infusing new energy into your work is new sources of information. And in this, by putting my own imagery into the AI system, the results are very unpredictable. And so there are some things that I can understand how the AI is coming to the conclusions that it is based on my work. But I still get some really amazing surprises that are built into it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for participating in this. It's awesome to see your work. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call upon Nathaniel Stern. Hey, Nathaniel.
Hey.
Can you tell us a little bit about this work and the process and the exhibition?
Sure can. First, I want to say beautiful work, Chris. It's really lovely. Thanks, Mirabel. Thanks, Jen. So this was coming out of my last solo exhibition. Before I had ever played with machine learning or artificial intelligence. I have a 20+ years practice of working in interactive and digital art. And then the show that opened up at the Museum of Wisconsin Art downtown space was kind of reimagining electronic waste in various ways. So I had this huge installation of a 200 square foot wall with kind of computers and vines and cables, but also intermixed with plant life climbing up and growing up the walls. I would melt down iMacs and turn them into tools. I would make, like a wrench or a screwdriver. I made a trowel and a saw out of a circuit board. And then I also kind of fossilized the phones by cooking, freezing, blending, burning, etc. So thinking about different time scales of ecology and life with technology. And so, during quarantine, I decided to move back to screen-based work, and NFTs exploded, and I did more research. And I've come to believe that both the blockchain and the internet will forever change how we interact with each other, socially, monetary, and otherwise, and that AI will not only be making important decisions for us, but it's going to become the standard or one of many standards of creative output. And so I decided to go in those directions, lean in hard to AI and machine learning, but continue the research I've been doing. So these kind of somewhat obviously morph cassette tapes into trees. This is a layout of 6 by 6 by 6 by 6, so 36 different morphs. And I also did them individually, but I was playing with morphing, for example, headphones, projectors, typewriters, and electronic waste into houseplants, flowers, fish, or coral. And I like to think of our e-waste as alive in as much as they grow and spread, consume and break down, diffuse waste and minerals, shift power and stories into and around the world, literally and metaphorically. And so I'm trying to visually compare and contrast electronic and biological vitality. So this piece is called Listening Tree. The series as a whole is called Machine Growth. So hat tip to Chris for using machine in a number of different punny ways, as have I. I will say that, speaking of Playform, I saw Ann Spalter give a talk here in Milwaukee a few weeks ago, who's one of your studio artists, and I was blown away both by her work and the frames that she worked in. The very night I started playing with Playform, I joined studio within 3 days. I was lucky enough to kind of get access to the old Playform videos of people giving those studio talks, and so felt like I was in the know already in terms of what kinds of things I might try mixing and playing with that put me in a really good position. This was one of the first morphs I did. But that said, like Chris, I find myself getting new ideas and new aesthetics myself as I play with Playform more. And additionally, I'll add that I am actually a coder. So I know that one of Playform's things is no code AI. But what has happened is Playform has opened up new ways of thinking for me. And so I am also playing with coded artificial intelligence platforms and doing some coding myself, but I've still stuck with Playform because it's so easy and interesting, and it has a great community too. And I wasn't expecting to love the filter so much, to be honest, that you guys produced for me. I think it's cool that I have an AI style now, which is different from, but kind of builds on the styles I'm already known for in other media. And I've seen some people already do some cool stuff with my filter. All right, I'm gonna stop there and hand back.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Nathaniel. And I just want to say, I love this work. I love, the message that you're evoking through it. And it's an awesome filter. So everyone go play with Nathaniel's filter. It's super cool. This is Listening Tree. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next I'd like to introduce Katya Grakovsky. Hey, Katya, you there?
Hi. Yes, I'm just going to put my video on. Hang on. All right. Hi.
Hey, how are you? If you can tell us a bit about Smog Body and the process and using Playform.
Yes, so hi everyone. I have been using Playform for I think over a year or less than, about a year. I did the residency 2020, and I work in a lot of different media, mostly actually installation, sculpture, video performance, painting, drawing, etc. So I'm always interested in mixing mediums and how they interact with each other. And I think the appeal of Playform, especially during pandemic, was really interesting to me to go over into digital world specifically, and I'm fascinated with AI. So how I use it is I feeded a lot of my work from the physical world, and I mash things up all the time in my installation and sculpture and my paintings and collage. So it's a lot of mixed media. So I was curious how it would be done by AI. So there's kind of a collaboration going on where I feeded hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things, of images, and I used to really play with it a lot last year especially. And this year I'm interested more and more in kind of how to control it and how to really sort of directed. And I'm interested always in mashing things up that are not as appealing initially. And so the smog body came out of this idea that I kept getting, when I feeded a lot of things, I kept getting sort of this muddy images, and I started saving them and kind of putting them into a new set. And then I would feed it a lot of my drawings and these kind of muddy images of past works, plus a lot of found images of childhood, from images from my childhood and images of like theme parks. I had this installation based on Disneyland. So it came up with this soupy kind of polluted soup. I don't know how to describe it, but kind of bodily unattractive thing that kept happening. So I decided to then mash it up back into with my drawings, which are quite colorful and have a lot of line and color. So that's what you see in this body of work. It's a combination, and that's why the smog came to me. And body, I work a lot with the body. So there's kind of this idea of this polluted environment and the body being in it, but it's quite abstract as well. So I'm still kind of working with this idea of mashing those things up, of this muddy quality, which the color is very appealing to me in combination with other colors. So I'm kind of interested right now in controlling the color palette much, much more, and really learning how to do that without always ending up with muddy images out of that. So that's kind of where I'm currently in progress with this body of work.
Yeah. Thank you. And I know that you mentioned in previous conversations that it's kind of interesting to see how the AI tool has mimicked or tried to expand upon your hand, your artistic hand, and your body of work. What do you think about this work of art in particular, and how also the use of the filter kind of translates that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've started using, like I used to use a lot of mashup, I think, training, like creative morph, and this is style transfer, I think. So there's a slight difference to how all of this works. I'm interested in the idea of filter. I've never done that before, so that's new, and how that, the muddy colors might affect that. So I was curious if that's going to be really terrible. But it kind of interesting that pink comes through. So there's always something new, which I like with Playform to discover and to kind of direct my work. And it doesn't mean I always necessarily accept it or like it, but I like to explore. So I was curious about the filters and how they can affect somebody else's image and work. I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah.
No, totally awesome. And thank you so much. Everyone go check out Katya's filter. Once again, I'm just going to plug this. It's playform.io/remix. I'm going to keep saying it, but go play with her filter. It's awesome. Thanks so much, Katya.
Thank you.
Thanks. So next up is Witold Rydell. Hey, Witold.
Hi. Am I unmuted? Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Hey, so can you tell us a bit about Forbidden Memory?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is really, it's really an honor to be part of this group, and thank you, Jennifer and Maribel, to have me part of this exhibition. I mean, it's a really exciting set of work for everyone. I'm a German artist. I'm in London right now, and I've lived in New York for quite some time. So I'm a bit of a perpetual immigrant, and a bit of a person that has lived from Poland to the US, to many places. And my work is all about interconnectedness of everything. So I explore how we adapt to new circumstances and how we're also part of a larger living system. And so the work is probably very relevant right now. We're on the brink of something quite significant on the planet. And I create drawings usually that are made with pollution or even directly with flames, and also with various kinds of particles, like data particles as well. I've traveled around the world quite a lot, and created large libraries of photography, from which then I distill the new photography work. Because this is a piece from the new photography work, and I really like that Playform allows me to connect the drawing practice and the photography practice into something that is totally new, and it's also is more like paintings. And I take these pieces and I usually turn them also into physical objects. I find that physicality of this, of what was created quite interesting. And there's quite a process that goes afterwards that allows me to make them into real photographs. You have this really great upscaling tool also on Playform, and that is quite good. You can also choose different ways of how things scale. And so as far as remixing goes, I mean, obviously everything I do is a bit of a remix of energies or a remix of materials that exist on the planet. But I am also I see myself as part of REMIX, as we're one living conscious entity. And so this particular piece here is part of a series called Memory of a Forbidden Place, and was distilling hundreds of photographs of the Forbidden City in Beijing. And I've been to the Palace Museum, as it's now called, in Beijing many times, and have created libraries of observations in the Forbidden City. It's a very interesting object. 999 rooms, really created at the height of possibility over 500 years ago, and has survived quite many changes, obviously, not just in China, but globally. I think it's a globally significant object for humanity. And so to be able to strip away what we see from tourist pictures and somehow be able to display the emotion that is locked into this really incredible magical place, I think that was really exciting to find in the renderings on the distillations that Playform developed. And so I'm really excited that I'm going to be able to create more of images of places and people where I'm able to remove the seemingly visible layer and then dive into the more emotional space about what it is and how it feels. Chris described how it really is like a photographic process. It's taking many images and then distilling them and then having the curatorial experience of finding the right edit. And so this is it's a single image, but it's also going to be a physical photograph and not just an NFT. I don't know. I hope this explains it a bit.
Thank you so much. And it's so exciting to see how you mentioned like the energy gets actually very much elevated when you strip away all of the excess of and the distraction. And I'm excited to see how that energy will transform or remain or build upon through your filters. So what do you think about that? Like people, taking their images and using this on top of it?
Well, the first thing I did, obviously, was to take to test it myself. To take drawings and to apply the filter to those drawings, and it's really fascinating. It's creating another layer, and I think collaboration like this is incredibly important. Everything that we put into the world has the potential to inspire or to redirect. It has the potential to save us or to destroy us. So, creating something that people can then use as a starting point for their creativity, I think that's something that is incredibly important to make. We need to reinvent what we have. We cannot just repeat what is there. We have to remix and we have to reinvent ourselves in order to make it through this crisis here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Vitold, and everyone go check out the filter. Once again, playform.io/remix. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce Albert. Hey, Albert.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Can you tell us a bit about this work and the process?
Well, it's pretty complicated. I mean, it's essentially very simple, but I'm really grateful to be part of the REMIX group show. First of all, I'm come from a generation that's embedded in hip hop culture, and hip hop has always manifested the embodiment. Well, apart from its moorings in African American culture and jazz, it also ties into the post-human connection between man and machine. Early 1980s hip hop was about sampling heavily, and whether it be disco or electro funk from that time. And DJing is very important in breakdancing, which both of them tie this mechanized action, like breakdancing, man as machine, man with machine, man and machine. So for me, Playform is a way of being able to integrate critical theory practice, particularly critical race theory and Afrofuturism. Also my identity as an Asian American contemporary artist with art and technology. And for me, this is part of a series of 3. So these are like hip hop producers that I've admired. And Large Professor was a very key figure. First of all, he was the DJ and producer for Main Source's first album, Breaking Atoms, which I highly recommend a strong listening. There's actually a scholarly edition of that album now. And I've always found Playform, which was introduced by my professor, Justin Watson, in a class. Like, I've never heard of it until earlier this year, and I'm very grateful for it. And for me, it's been a very exploratory tool. So this is like, this particular piece, I'm able to converge both a more traditional form of portraiture with, graffiti art, and then, tying into the textural qualities and that rich, texture. And I mean, there's the NFT version, which is pretty awesome to have. And then I would love to have, I'm working on the analog counterpoint, which is going to be a tapestry version. So I'm looking forward to developing that, and that'll be out later this year. I like having both the analog and digital versions because, well, it expresses the hybridity of our culture, that we're never going to be completely digital. I mean, we have our smartphones and computers around us, but I feel like, especially, art collectors and people that really enjoy art, also like having the physical object. I was just, I was out on a trip, actually. I got to meet the lovely folks at Playform, which was awesome, but also like it was nice at the Getty, and also the Broad Museum interacting with physical objects in a digital world. So this complexity is really good. It's not one or the other, but it's just great to have both mashed up. And actually, it's interesting too, because I also visited when I was in LA recently, CAM, and they were actually talking a lot about the convergence of African American culture with digital practices, and they have a great group of shows, Sanford Biggers, whose work also ties to traditional painting, fabric work in the digital world is up there. So for me, I really just want to thank Playform for their support, and then my collaborator as well as out in LA, Patrick. He also made a jumpsuit with this filter, and we actually started, I guess it's hard to say, we started a very experimental fashion brand called Hazemat. So yeah, this filter will probably show up on clothing at some point. Who knows? So
Just continuing the remix. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I actually have photos of him with wearing the filter, and then it's probably going to get paint and all sorts of stuff from his studio on it. So
Awesome. Thank you so much, Albert, and thanks for this work. It's so cool. Please, everyone, play with the filter. It's awesome. And I'm so excited to see how the remix will continue with this work. So now I'd like to welcome Roxy Savage to talk about her work. Hey, Roxy.
Hey, Maribel.
Hey, can you tell us a bit about this work?
I can. Hold on a sec. For some reason, it says unmute myself. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just seeing like the figures going across. Let's see. Okay. Happy Monday, everyone, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you all at Playform It is Monday, Nathaniel. I know, right? It's just like this duration of time. I am thrilled to be here with everyone on Remix. Thank you, Playform, Jen and Mirabelle, and everyone behind the scenes who does write the code, because I am the low tech, but now moving into the high tech. So this image comes from a series called Mambo Cuties. And the way I work, basically there's always something that is started through an analog or physical object. And believe it or not, this was a piece of ceramic that was probably from like the 1930s or 40s. And it was this sort of kitschy thing that had these two little faces, and it said, kissin' don't last, cookin', good cookin' do. So being that I'm looking for the intersection of breaking down stereotypes, feminist, kitchenalia, this was the perfect one. And the great thing about Remix is that I just took it, and essentially the processes were, I put it in Adobe Fresco, I did digital drawings, I put them into Playform, I remixed them twice, and then I made a video. And essentially, I think the thing about Playform is that it allows me or presents me with such an amazing range of ways of going. And at one point, Maribel said, well, why don't you make a GIF? And so this is the GIF made from a sticker from Giphy. And other areas or other avenues of Remix, for the video that I made, I went to Internet Archives, and I got music from the same period that the original piece of ceramic was, and I sort of interpreted the music to the image. So for me, Playform is true play, and my background is just very, very generative, creating visual images that are very generative through printmaking and photography. And so for me, this is just this incredible sort of burst of artistic information that I can add to my portfolio of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my story. Thank you all.
I just want to say too, Roxy, that this idea of reinterpreting and creating a new meaning from something previously, I think is a large part of your body of work in general, reiterating, changing the meaning behind it, adding a different meaning to it through, kitchenalia and, things like that. So would you agree about that? Like how Remix kind of collaborates with that idea?
Absolutely, Maribel. And I also want to share and restate some of the other artists that came up. Although I've never met you physically, I feel like through restyling your work, through the style platform, I've been having this extraordinary experience working with all of your artwork. So thank you so much. Because I never would have made imagery like this if not for this. I apologize, the name of this style, the new style format. Can you tell me what that is?
Pro-Art Filters.
The Pro-Art Filters are awesome. So thank you for that. Thank you all the artists whose works are in the Pro-Art Filters. It's so much fun. I'm just having a blast with it. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And everyone, please play with Roxy's filter. It's super fun, super green. It's really fun to play with. Thank you, Roxy.
Thank you all.
Next up is Michael. Hey, Michael.
Hello there. Good morning to everybody. I guess I want to echo the thanks to Playform and specifically Mirabelle and Jennifer and to the other artists. I feel really in wonderful company here. I feel really lucky to have gotten into the exhibit, but I'm very grateful as well. I approach my artistry from a traditionally non-art background. My educational background is in physics and theoretical astrophysics, and then I completely left academia and was a game designer for 30 years. So that's where notions of AI and technology and creating art in a virtual environment sort of came my way. And after I left active game development, I wanted to do my own thing and create my own statement about what I see art being. And the basis for most of my art is really from that standpoint of theoretical physics and how that actually does connect us all together as human beings. And so I feel like I'm making a lot of the same statements that some of the previous artists have said, but from the sort of complementary side of the equation. And this piece, this collaborative sense that the other artists have mentioned, to me, I love that. There's a strong feeling that in working in a theoretical environment, in a cyber environment, what I do is create, and then I print my own work, and then I bring that, or I birth that into, you know, what we consider the real world. And so for me, this piece, the Ouroboros is, if for anybody who doesn't know, I think most probably people know, is that famous symbol of the snake eating its tail in a circular form. And the rest of it, ars infinitus or infinitus, depending upon how you want to pronounce your Latin, is this notion of unending art. And for me, Playform is kind of that embodiment, or the digital realm is that embodiment of our creativity being able to know no bounds. Not that it ever did before, but now we're going beyond material use. And even though we bring things into the real world using materials, that spark of creativity is coming from a place that we could have never, that I especially could have never done before, relying on my software tools, my computer, and my cyber artist studio. So I am really, really grateful that this piece, which was a mashup of two of my other works, I wanted to create something that would have a simple color palette, but felt like there was an interesting brush stroke to the work, and that could potentially be used, like many of the other artists have said, as a launching point for somebody else's creativity. So that's where this comes from. And I'm, again, very, very grateful to be part of this wonderful exhibit and group of artists.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael. And also, I kind of just want to touch upon, like, I know you and I have discussed previously how the interconnectedness of kind of everything, like everything is everything. And does that ring true to you in terms of like this experiment that we're doing with REMIX and filters?
Yes. Well, I mean, just look at the diversity of the artists, what their backgrounds are, where they're from. But there's something that's all bringing us together and offering just this platform to play with and to use in whatever way, hopefully that will be inspirational. And for me, that's that global network of humanity coming together. And I think that's really, really important.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. And thanks for participating in this. Everyone play with Michael's filter. It's so fun and cool. Yellow and blue. It's really awesome to see what comes out of this. So thank you. Last but not least at all, I would like to welcome Jen Palmer. Jen, you there? Hey.
Here, yes.
Welcome. Right. Thanks so much for joining. Can you tell us a bit about Waveform?
Thank you. Yes. First, let me just say that everyone else has totally blown me away. I love connecting with all of you and just like experiencing the joy and hearing about the joy that you all have in creating this, because that's something that really, just gets me every time I make something on Playform. So All right, so waveform here, this work, I have a background in traditional painting, sculpture, photography, and then I got my master's in digital photography. And so I have that digital background of playing with things, but for like the past 5 years, I've really just been painting and making these different instances, these abstract, colorful works that are sort of like emotionscapes for me. And making, I've got stacks of these papers. So I just went ahead and like fed these stacks of papers into the Playform platform and was absolutely amazed that what I got back was essentially my work, but that I had never made it. And so it was really exciting to see the ways that it interpreted the things, the line, the texture, everything from my traditional materials that I'm using. And so the one thing that really comes through too, especially in this work that I loved, is the quality of light. I make work about radical hope. So oftentimes there's a contrast between the darkness and the lightness and the way that those come together. So there was a whole series that came out of the set of images that looked like water, that had this quality of water and this form of motion. Everything's always shifting in my work. And so then there's this sense of the light coming through. And to me, these automatically just felt like you're in this space underwater, but you can see up through, and that light's coming through, and that perfectly embodies the idea of radical hope.
Absolutely. I could see this being really beautiful on like glass or a window. And I think what you're saying about the light peeking through, it's so incredible how the AI like interpreted that and it really mimics your hand just in a, but it's like you said, it's not by you. So I love this work. It's so beautiful and also really beautiful translated onto a filter. For any of you who have played with Jen's filter, I think it's awesome and looks so great. So thank you so much, Jen. I really am so happy that you participated in this, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. To all the artists who participated, really appreciate it. We love to hear about your work, but we are also so happy to be playing with your filters. So please check out the filters and the NFTs available only on Rarible at playform.io/remix. It's playform.io/remix. So everyone, thank you so much. And we're looking forward to seeing everyone's filters and post them on social. You can tag us at Playform, tag the artists. And yeah, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.